late 1800s, early 1900s. Before the Normans, that's quite an immigration.
Hey, you guys were just getting over here in Europe. We're already swimming in Colorado.
We're bringing Irish whiskey.
Well, God bless you. Tastes a lot better than the stuff we made in Canyon.
Canyon's right.
Other side really?
Watch the
Yeah, Walker's came out.
These two gentlemen have done it. If it starts to look like say we're going to get to right here.
Really, Taylor, but Taylor's daughter married Walker. Yeah, I go back to John. His son was Solomon, who was like great grandson.
Yeah.
And then it's 15.
Yeah, I'm trying to agree.
Walker's, yeah, my grandmother was
Over there. I never see her around town. What's that? You live in Moab, right? Yeah.
I don't know who.
Why don't you just do it? Why don't you just do it? You could
Because
do
you
it.
even.
Do I?
Yeah.
I mean, that's my thing.
Okay, I'll do
Yes, they
it.
are.
After council administrator report. Okay. Got it.
Really?
Wow. So Greg, you Irish on your mom or dad's side? Dad's side.
How do you just cancel?
I've got Irish on both sides.
I'm very agree with the, they would not have done.
You get over there? It's a great place, but you gotta get over there.
I've been to Germany and
Are we ready, Ruth?
Alaska and Central America.
Yeah.
A lot of time in Central America.
All right. I would like to call this meeting of Tuesday, February 6, 2018, Grand County Council regular meeting to order. We have Councilman Greg Halliday, Jaylen Hawks, Curtis Wells, Mary McGann, Rory Paxman, and Patrick Trim present. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Jeff Whitney, would you please lead us?
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have the minutes, A through E, correct? Yeah, A through E. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, any discussion? Correct? Oh, sorry, seconded. The motion was by Curtis Wells, seconded by Jaylen Hawks. Any discussion? Corrections? Yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jaylen.
The first set of minutes labeled November 21st. just ticky, but for future people, 5 years down the road that happen to want to read the minutes, item S is approving independent contractor's agreement for construction of a concrete entrance ramp. And I think it would be helpful to have the name of the ramp there. You don't have to go back and dig through the actual transcript of the meeting to find out. I think that's all I had on that one. And then on December 5th, page 4 of 5, so this is the actual page number of the minutes, not our iPad numbers. Curtis Wells proposes to adopt the resolution, and then somebody made a substitute motion, and there's just a T missing in substitute, so again, that's ticky, but we may as well be correct. December 18th, item D.
Jillian, can you repeat that for me, please?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. It's page 4 of 5 on December 5th. That's December 5th minutes. 4th page, 2nd paragraph. So motion made by Councilmember Curtis Wells to adopt the proposed resolution. Then there's the word in caps substitute. Substitute T. Maybe there's just an extra U there.
Oh, I see.
That's where it is. And the December 18th minutes. That was just a curiosity for me. The first page, item C, general business, approving the option to match city's pay scale. Is that the language we've been using all along, match the city's pay scale for the budget process? Compensation?
Boy.
It just sounded odd to me, but maybe down the road we changed it. Maybe for that meeting that's what it was.
Would you mind repeating that?
It talks about in item C, approving proposed option to 1, match Moab City's pay scale for sheriff office, patrol and corrections officer, and 2, match Moab City's pay scale. And it's the Moab City's pay scale part that I'm wondering, is that the language that we've been using?
Yeah, probably not.
That was on the agenda, that was the agenda item.
That was what it was
That's
titled.
what it was.
Okay.
I would just, something along the lines of market, adjust per market.
But I think that's,
Yeah, if that was the title of the item, probably should have caught that a long time ago. Okay, and then December 19th, regular meeting. Yes, regular meeting. It says at the beginning that Rory Paxman was there, and then the next sentence it says Greg Halliday and Rory Paxman were absent. So that needs to be fixed. I'm assuming he was absent since the counts of the vote indicate he was not there to vote.
yeah, he wasn't here on the 19th. He wrote it.
Okay. That one, and then at the end in the council reports, Councilmember Hawks attended a meeting, Councilmember Wells attended a meeting, and it looks like they attended 2 different meetings. Actually, it was the same meeting, one and the same, so we probably use different terminology to refer to those meetings, but we did attend 2 different meetings. That's all I have on minutes.
Any further discussion? Thank you, Jaylen. Any further discussion? Okay. I'll call for approval of the minutes as corrected. All in favor? Motion passes 6-0. 6-0. Thank you. Ratification of payment of bills. Yes, Rory?
All right. For Grant County, bills to be approved for ratification for 2/6/2018. Total bills $1,515,457.76. Total payroll $391,704.04. Total bills and payroll $1,907,161. $1,907,161.80.
Motion by Roy Paxman. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Jaylen Hawks. Discussion. Seeing no discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Oh, roll call, correct. Greg Halliday,
Aye.
Jaylen Hawks,
Aye.
Curtis Wells,
Aye.
Mary McGann, aye. Roy Paxman,
Aye.
Patrick Trim.
Aye.
Passes 6-0. We will now move to, I don't see any elected official report, council administrator report.
Ooh, you bet. Am I on? I'm still working on evaluations, and you all have me doing my own self-evaluation. So that's coming. In the coming weeks, you'll be in a process, so watch for that. I also wanted you to know, I attended along with Zachariah and other county staff, city staff, consultants, energy companies, Rocky Mountain Power, citizens, Solid Waste District. A lot of folks came together for a WattSmart community workshop. WattSmart, so it's about energy smart for the city and the county. And so what came out of that in the second of 3 workshops is a focus area of being more energy efficient with hotels, lodging, with affordable housing, and with what's considered community solar. So those are things that this working group is getting focused on and will beginning to implement. The other thing is that I want this body to know is the part-time office assistant in my office will be sharing some duties with the Travel Council. I'm working with Diana to be sure we can do that payroll-wise. It's going to be a help to the Travel Council and will help fill the gap of workload needed in that. So that is coming as well. That's what I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to, it's I and J, right?
Move K and L.
Move K and L right after, before the department reports.
Agency reports. Okay, the motion is to move presentation, item K and item L, to in front of agency reports. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Curtis Wells. All in favor?
Aye.
I didn't call for discussion. I apologize. Okay, we will move to the 2017 Museum of Moab report. John Foster, Museum of Moab Director. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I, again, am John Foster. It's good to see you guys again. I think I was in here last, maybe about 6 months or so ago. This is Tim Smith, who came with us today. He's a new board member, just started in the fall. And we're going to do just a quick summary of our 2017 year. I will try to keep this fairly short. Again, a reminder on the MOU that we have with the county from 2007. Section 5, we're required to do an annual report. We're trying to do these a little more frequently than that, just to stay in better communication. Again, our mission is really the preservation of the natural and cultural history of southeast Utah and the Moab area. Some of the biggest developments for us this year from October, the end of the year, basically October into December, we hired a full-time development director and marketing director there, Christy Williams-Dunton and Sarah Sidwell. And this is in addition to our regular staff that we have on the reception desk and an operations director and education person. Those are part-time positions, but they're both new, so that we have basically 4 new positions since 2014. We had about 12 different temporary exhibits in the Barnes Gallery, mainly art, 3D, and paintings and photographs. We also had the quilt show. One of the things that we had that was a little bit different this year, we had a remembrance quilt for Cold War uranium workers, basically mining and milling employees, that was brought to us by a group called the Cold War Patriots, and that was back in June. That was a smaller version of a larger quilt that had been in DC and has been going all around the country. We did a number of tours and special events, 2 with CFI, which were a Old Spanish Trail tour there on the left, where we went by Casa Colorado. We also did a tracks tour, as we have for the past few years, that one out from Mill Canyon. And then we've also done an open house back in May, where we had Greg Nunn doing some flint knapping along with a lot of other things. Art walks this year did really well. I don't know if it's good for us, but I don't know if we can credit ourselves entirely for that. I think Meg Stewart over at the Mark has done a good job in marketing those and putting together a program that really seems to have built up, particularly in the last year. We had an attendance increase there that was pretty impressive. The Ice Cream Social, again, was our biggest event in the summer there on Pioneer Day. This was all true until about 8:30, when the thunderstorm hit and basically ran everybody off with lightning and a downpour and everything. With Sarah coming on in marketing, we've started adding a few more frequent special events, including a holiday open house the same night as the Christmas parade. We continue to do the co-sponsored lectures with CNHA. Our education program that Andrea Stoughton has been leading has done particularly well. We had 53% growth over last year, and it's up 160% over 2015. That's basically the number of school groups and kids that we're reaching on those tours. Research Library continues to be our main source for researchers who are using it for various research projects. Our collections have been used a little bit as well. In terms of collections, we actually cataloged double the number of new objects into the collections this year and had a number of donations. Membership revenue is up again this year at about 27% total over 2015. The attendance numbers, again, going back past decade or so, second best year in 2017. And I think it was maybe our 4th best year since 1998, which is the year that we have our oldest, most complete data from. Just a view of our income and expense. Again, the county contribution is our biggest percentage of that. Admissions and membership are fairly important as well. Everything else is a bit less. On our expenses, essentially mainly payroll and general operating, and then we've been spending a little bit more on advertising and membership. A large part of the membership expense really is our Canyon Legacy Journal, which we publish every year. Another thing that is new that we're working on right now that we have 2 new staff people in and we're trying to build the profile a little bit more, we will be beginning essentially a complete overhaul of our exhibits, which should open in March of 2019. That's a project that will be starting this fall, and so we're in the process now of gearing up all the planning to be able to do that. And that'll include a little bit of internal remodeling of the building, as well as pretty much all new exhibits. So with that, I want to thank you guys again for the county's support of the museum and answer any questions that you guys may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want it noted that Evan Clapper arrived during John Foster's presentation. Any questions or comments?
Any hints on new exhibits? Sorry.
Jaylin?
I'll yield the floor to Curtis.
Curtis?
Any hints on new exhibits?
We haven't decided everything entirely, but we're working with a professional exhibit design company who right now we're basically in the process of throwing ideas back and forth. They're having us pick what things we really want to feature, and they're coming up with ideas for presentations and how to present those stories. We're hopefully going to be having some new objects and artifacts for it and arranged in a hopefully different way that everybody will enjoy and maybe get more out of. One of the things we're struggling with is making sure that the way things are in there right now are approximately chronological, but otherwise there's not a real coherent order to them. And what we're wanting to do is present it in a little bit more of an interconnectedness so that people get more out of it than just the objects themselves.
Yeah.
That by the time they get through it, there's more of a story and a conclusion from it.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
Jaylin?
I may have missed this, but what's Tim's position with the museum?
Tim is on our board and is in charge of our facilities subcommittee. And so he's helping out a lot, particularly as we go into the remodeling of the exhibits, some of the interior remodeling that we're going to be doing. That'll be the committee that Tim's in charge of.
Any further comments or discussions? Thank you very much,
Okay.
John.
Thanks.
It's exciting to see all the improvements. Thank you. We now have a presentation by Jeff Whitney on understanding ISO Insurance Service Office rating for structural fire protection.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Understanding ISO is it's kind of fuzzy, but it means real money on the ground for individuals in the community. ISO, within the ISO program, they rate fire departments and building departments with a score. The score is 1 to 10, 1 being the most exemplary and 10 being the least. Historically, residential communities with the worst ISO ratings have had twice the fire losses as ISO or communities with ISO ratings of the best. So you can see how insurance companies are going to want to look at those different communities in a different light and give them different ratings. The purposes of the ISO is to give insurance companies a uniform system whereby they can charge premiums in different areas. Now, just a little note, ISO ratings are a little harder to come by after the huge disasters we've had over the last few years. So if you improve a lot, our department has improved a great deal. We've added FEMA to our program. We've added one more person to take up slack. And yet, the last go around with ISO, we remained the same. Not that we're bad, we have an ISO rating of 3 on residential and 2 on commercial, so that's pretty good for a small town. In the nation, only 3.6% of communities have an ISO rating of 3. So
Would you repeat that?
only 3.6% of the communities in our country have an ISO rating of 3. So that puts us kind of in perspective. Our fire department has an ISO rating of 4. That is really, really good for a small town fire department that's mostly volunteer. And I'll talk a little bit about that, about how that gets changed and improved. 50% of that score comes from the local fire department, including their staffing, their training, geological distribution of their firehouses, and adequacy of the fire department equipment, and that needs to be tested on a regular basis. 40% of the score comes from the community's water supply, including placement and condition of fire hydrants, and those get tested on a regular basis, and the amount of water that's available to put out fires. 10% of the score comes from the dispatching system, how many dispatchers you have available for the size of your community. So a basic study performed to determine the rate, if ISO rates go from a 3 to a 5, there was this study that of course depends on your systems. Every 3 years they come and they check us out and see how we're doing, what we've added, what we've lost. So you know, that one person that you guys decided to hand us for our staffing really makes a difference in our ISO rating.
But what you're talking here is Moab, Spanish Valley, or countywide?
Well, our department is looked out countywide because we serve the entire county. But the fire department is looked at district-wide, and you really need to consider that situation. Just to let you understand the difference in a 3 and a 5, with an $80,000 value on a property, the difference between 3 and 5 is $75 worth of homeowner's insurance that everybody pays. For a $250,000 home, your difference between 3 and 5 rating is going to be $230. So it's real money when you're talking what gets expended if your ISO rating goes up.
Hey Jeff, does ISO publish any standards to help counties to be able to raise those scores?
Yeah, we have. There's a huge analysis, and I have copies of what we have on our analysis to get the scores that we've got. And they want to know how many inspections we do, how many inspectors we have, our certification levels, whether the community adopts the current building code or if we're using an old one. And that's a thing that our local governments need to express to our state government. Our state government adopts the codes that we use, both fire codes and building codes. When they decide, like they did this last legislative session, to not go with the 2018 codes, the most current codes, then ISO looks at our ratings and they say, well, you're not using the most current code, your ISO rating's going to raise. Well, that means everybody who pays property taxes is going to pay, or that has a mortgage or that has insurance is going to pay higher premiums because we don't use the most current code. And I know that there's a good lobby with the Home Builders Association who wants to build it for cheaper. But if we don't use the most current codes, we're not going to get as good an ISO rating. So if you have any input, that's a place you could help. Essential elements in a fire department that you have to have to receive a Class 3 rating is the fire department has to have pumper capacity to suppress fires in any building in the community. The fire department has to have 24-hour central dispatch for contacting all firefighters on duty. They have to have a fully equipped reserve apparatus. Annual testing must be conducted on pumper trucks, hoses, hydrants, and a minimum number of firefighters must be active and depended on in response to an alarm. Firefighter training must greatly exceed the minimum standards, and they must perform annual fire code building inspections. Our fire department is right on the edge of a 3 rating, which is going to make a big difference to everybody who pays insurance, who buys insurance for their properties. What you don't want to do is dilute their system or dilute their district into areas that can't supply water, that their response times go up. So if you you don't want to expand the current district beyond its capability and its current water supply, hydrants, and that type of thing. If you want to draw in the taxes from those areas that get the service but don't pay the taxes, then it should come in the form of a different district. And Philip's here, and he can help kind of explain. There are ways to divide that out. Well, this portion of the district can only get this, or this rating. And I live in Casa Valley. I think our fire rating is 9. That's next to the worst. But we have an actual fire department that responds. So when you're talking Willow Basin and up the river and out in the books, you're not going to raise their ISO rating out there. But they do get services, though. We had a fire up in Willow Basin, and both the Moab Fire Department and the Casa Valley Fire Department responded. And the owners were, when I talked to them, extremely happy at the service they received. They didn't pay taxes. So something should be done. ISO rating is just a small portion, or not a small portion, but it's a portion of how your premiums get decided on. But it's a factor that really is, like I illustrated, based in, there's some real money there. And, you know, you're not getting money into the county when you put on new staff or hire new people at the fire department, but everybody in the community benefits from that. And so, you know, they should be willing to pony up a little. Any questions?
Questions?
You mentioned that inspections and things can lower the ISO.
Yes.
Is there other mitigations that we could do on homes or properties or zoning to lower those?
Not that would affect your ISO rating. Your ISO ratings is strictly your building department and fire departments. And like I say, we have it really good within the district. We don't want to dilute the district, but I mean, there's things you can do individually. A lot of things factor in. If you have a lot of losses from wind damage and, you know, earthquake damage, then your rating in that community goes up. We fortunately don't have seismic, so we're not worried about the ground shaking and knocking anything down. We don't have a lot of snow loads, so we don't worry about that. And we're protected by the canyon, so we don't have a lot of wind damage. We do have some, and generally that's on buildings like ag buildings that don't get permits. So we don't have roofs blow off ones that get inspected.
Are there other water supplies that can get approved? Or
well, you know, we're talking expanding water supply into the San Juan area of Spanish Valley. Our fire department does respond out there, and good placement of hydrants and that type of thing may help boost. I don't really think ISO is looking at what our fire department is doing outside the district itself, but it could help. Any infrastructure that gets placed.
I mean, can like water tanks count as?
Yeah, as supply, certainly. We have adopted the Wildland Urban Interface Code in Grand County. Anything that's built above 6,000 feet, we insist that they have some kind of water storage for fire suppression up there. So yeah, there's things that can be done. The fact that you adopted the Wildland Interface Code made a difference in our ISO rating. So,
Well, I think it's quite exciting that that we have a 3 rating when only 3.6 communities. We should be proud of that. Yes, great.
So we have the 3 fire districts.
Right.
We have Moab, we have Castle Valley, we have Thompson.
yes.
Now, the ISO rating you're talking about, the 4 belongs to Moab.
Moab.
Castle Valley is what, 8 or 9?
Castle Valley is 9.
Is 9.
I
Thompson,
believe Thompson is still 10.
Thompson's 10, even though Thompson has fire hydrants.
Yeah.
It's-
Have they been rated in the last few years?
There's Mark. Have been rated, okay.
You know, some communities don't subject themselves to the rating, and they get a 10. So. But you can request a rating.
So to cover the area of the county that's not in one of those 3 districts, then we would need to make another district to collect fire taxes from those people.
Case in point, Castleton, people in Castleton decided not to become part of the district. They still get that service. If there's a fire in Castleton, you're going up there. But they're not paying taxes to help.
I know, we gave them the option and they opted out.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have given the option.
So if you created a district out of the rest of the county, at least you could collect taxes to help pay for the services that they do get.
Any further questions? Thank you very much, Jeff. That was helpful. Yes. We will now go to item I, Public and Parental Defender Semi-Annual Report. Don Torgerson.
Hello. So we were here 6 months or so ago, and you may recall my report at that point indicated that the total case filings in the district court were up about 30% for the 6-month reporting period. We've stayed fairly consistent over maybe the last 5 years prior to that, and then we had this big jump 6 months ago, and this report shows that that is sustained. It's stayed 30% up. So in fact, our numbers this reporting period are almost identical. The total number of district court case filings were identical for this period along with last period, 102 district court filings. The difference being that last reporting period had more first-degree felony filings. This reporting period had a lot more third-degree felony filings. So I guess the numbers are up, but I guess the severity of the crimes are a little bit down overall. And it appears that the juvenile court child welfare cases are pretty consistent as well from what they were last time. So overall, we've seen this increase. I don't know what it means that we've had a year of consistency. Hopefully things will start to go back down, but I don't know if that'll be the case. But we do have, over where it's been, we're up about 30% for the last 12 months in overall case filings. Reports, there's not a lot to it. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them, but pretty simple otherwise.
Questions? Yes, Ms. Hawks?
How hard would it be to put the previous 6-month reporting period number right next to the one you're coming to report on? Just for comparison, I know
Sure.
that may not show much, but it could be interesting.
It wouldn't be that hard. In fact, I think we'd intended to do that this time and just ran out of time. So, but it wouldn't be hard to put side by side the numbers even for the past few years. Our reports are the same, so we just need to put those into columns for you, and we can try and do that next time.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Yeah.
And we can compare. Any further questions or comments?
The only other thing to add, we will have a new judge sometime in July in the district court. We don't know, obviously that process is just starting, but That won't affect case filings, but I guess it could conceivably affect how quickly and efficiently cases are resolved, depending on who it is that ends up in that position. But we're looking forward, I guess, may not be the right word, because Judge Anderson's been a really good judge, and we all like working with him, but we'll see who his replacement is, and that may affect somewhat how things are done here. Obviously won't affect, I guess, criminality in the community, but it may affect how the cases are processed.
You throwing your hat in the ring?
I am going to apply. At best, though, that's about a 10 or 11% chance, and more likely it'd be about a 2% chance, so not counting anything.
That's not, my understanding is your chances are higher. We'll see.
Well, hopefully. I hope maybe your information's better than mine. I don't know.
Good luck.
Thank you. Anything else?
Anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you in 6 months.
Thank you.
The 2017 Utah State University Extension Report, Michael Johnson.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good. I want to point out Kristen Godwin started working with me back in October, and so I'm certainly happy to have her on board and looking forward to new and better things in the upcoming years, certainly after having had some personnel changes. I'd like to have some stability, so I'm looking forward to that. Having such a
I
quality
can vouch
person
for
too.
her. She did a stellar job at Seahaven, and I'm sure they're very sad that you have
Stole
obtained
her.
Yeah, I was hoping that they didn't feel too badly toward me for that. But.
Congratulations.
So I'm here to tell you give you some idea of what I do and what I did this past year. And so extension is often referred to as cooperative extension, and that's due to the interaction between the federal, state, county governments and the university providing this service to the citizens. And we are a non-formal educational program providing unbiased, research-based information to the public, and that's sort of our calling card. Topic areas include agriculture, horticulture, natural resources, family and consumer science issues, which can include food safety, nutrition, finance, and then of course 4-H, which is the largest out-of-school youth program in the nation. What we're trying to do is we're trying to extend the university to the local communities, take the research that's done in the universities here in Utah and across the nation, and provide this educational information to use to improve the lives of the individuals, families, and communities here throughout the nation, but certainly here in Utah and here in Grant County. So some of the things I do, certainly horticulture. This is something that Extension's been known for through the years, and certainly I'm known as people refer to me as the tree guy, or I have a pretty extensive background in horticulture and help people in the community. There's a lot of money that goes into landscapes. There's a lot of interest in learning how to garden and improve, and certainly in a climate like we have with moisture up and down, heat, hot summers and everything. But Extension helps homeowners and businesses save money on their landscaping costs and help them to use that money more wisely. A lot of research has been put into it, and people annually oftentimes spend thousands of dollars on these types of things. We help by offering fact sheets, videos. Certainly we've had some online gardening courses that have come on the last year for people that are interested in master gardeners, and then experienced extension staff such as myself. I interact with citizens that come by the office. They stop me as I'm going around the community. And if issues arise that I can't answer just by that interaction, I'll go and visit sites, and have visited a lot of business sites that have had issues. I also write articles for the Times Independent, and that's become quite of interest to the public. I realize that things like YouTube get really lots of hits and stuff, but for somebody that'll go to something and read it, I mean, I had about 85,000 views of my articles just last year, and for somebody taking the time to go and read, that's good. So, Agriculture, even though we're seeing ourselves grow into less of an agriculture community, we still have a lot of people that are have livelihoods, and so to help them with their livelihoods, I meet with a lot of agriculture producers, and I bring people from the campus to come down. And so for this last year, for instance, we had Claudia Nischwitz, who is a plant pathologist, that came down and helped me work with some alfalfa producers, helped me work with a vegetable producer that was having some issues, and you know, things, growth issues, insects, whatever it might be. I had a unique call this year from Soil River that they had photosynthesis issues with their horses, whereas being sensitive to UV light and causes sunburn with horses with white markings. As it turns out, it's a issue with what they're eating. So eating certain weeds can cause this problem. And so I took some information, worked with our horse specialists, took some information to them and walked the fields with them and pointed out some issues that they had and hopefully be resolved. Another thing that we do is we offer testing opportunities for the Utah Department of Ag and Food pesticide applicator tests. And so we had 20 individuals, Grand County Weed Department, NPS, Moab Mosquito Abatement, Moab Golf Course, UDOT, and others that came and took this. This helps ensure that we have quality people when they are out there spraying chemicals, that doing so in a reasonable manner helps them and helps other people in the community. Starting in November, Extension came up with online courses for that Utah Department of Ag and Food course. And so now people are coming through, they're taken those courses, and then they can call my office or other offices and take the test. And I've only had a handful that have come in since that test came up that they really like the changes. They like the courses that Utah State University has come up with. Of course, we're looking in 4-H to provide fun, recreational learning activities for youth. We offered a summer program this year. We had a bunch of good volunteers that helped us. We offer clubs for Clover Buds, which is ages 5 to 7, but also older youth. And a lot of these are skilled, where you're learning skills, sewing, cooking, things like that. But we also had some dance clubs. We had some STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math that they came and were involved with. We also have requests from the community to help out at events, and so we had crafts activities at the Relay for Life and the Child Abuse Prevention Make One Take One this year, and also work with Beacon. In family and consumer sciences, food safety is a concern, and so the legislature asked USU to develop what's called the Food Safety Manager course, similar to ServSafe, and each company or business that serves food to the public has to have at least one person take this course. And so we had 13 businesses. We've been offering it since 2000. We had 13 businesses last year come. It's good for 3 years. Helps them not have to go outside of Grand County to get it. I also offer advice on food safety, on canning and things like that, drying, freezing to the public. One of the things that we've been doing since 2009, I had requests from the community and from the Community Action Partnership to develop an IRS VITA site, which is a volunteer income tax assistance site. And so this is our 10th year. I actually started last week with that. Last year we had 112 households, 156 filers, where you have people that are married or had dependents. This included 29 senior citizens, many of who in this community continue to work. 15 who reported being partially or permanently disabled, 9 single parents, individuals with limited English proficiency, and small businesses to come and take those or have us help with that. The purpose of the tax program is to especially help people get earned income tax credit, and this is a key anti-poverty provision established by Congress. This is for people that are persistently paid low wages, but also for individuals that happen to be in just a time period of their life where they're not making enough money and they can get benefit from federal government, basically. Research suggests that as much as 20% of families that can get this do not apply for it, and so the VITA program was created back in the day to help those people. Additionally, 10 families received child tax credits, and this is also important for low-income families as it reduces child poverty. And research shows that increases in family income of as little as $1,000 can improve a child's test score. We also had 29 of the 112 filers receive refunds totaling more than 1 month's adjusted gross income. You know, when I'm sitting there and I see people, I had somebody today that were incredibly happy at the results that they got, and so we're just trying to help people that cannot afford to pay somebody else and don't want to really have to go out and try to do it themselves, be able to get this and make sure that they're getting all the benefit that they can. It doesn't just end there, though. One of the things that we found in the last, especially 5 years or so, is that in this community, a lot of people get 1099 miscellaneous, essentially making you your own, your subcontractor or whatever, and so there's tax issues with that. And so we've helped people learn how to deal with that, even help coach them and working with individuals that are providing those to them to try to get them to switch over to a W-2, which helps them. With people that have multiple jobs, almost half of the people I saw last year had multiple jobs, anywhere from 2 to 5 jobs. And individuals with multiple jobs oftentimes do not have enough federal, state income tax taken out. And so it's more of a tax time, it's a burden on them to have to owe money. And so we coach them on how to adjust that so that they come out not owing money. And then of course small business owners, we help them understand how they can save money on their taxes. So we do, for a small office, the smallest office in the state with just 2 people, we do quite a bit. And with Kristen on board, we're looking forward to looking at more skill-based courses, food prep, nutrition, other financial programs. So I'm really looking forward to being able to offer those to the community. And I really appreciate all the help that you've given us over the years. I look forward to continuing working with you and working with the citizens in this community.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Questions or comments? It's amazing. I had no idea you did so much, especially with the taxes. That was a good report. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I got a question.
Yes.
Have you guys followed the Lieutenant Governor's Intergenerational Poverty Initiative at Extension?
Yes, we have some individuals looking at it. I've applied. I put in grants for that. In fact, we've talked in the past when I've been looking at grants. I have at times been pretty good at getting funded. That wasn't the last time that I put in for one of those. But Kristen and I are planning on making that more of a priority and looking at ways that we can assist the community in that.
Have you reviewed the IGP plan that was drafted out of the Community Development Office here at the county? Is that a public document yet?
Yeah, I have looked at it, not lately, but I have looked at it.
Okay, it seems like we've kind of wrestled with how to contribute to that, and it seems like it was like a soft mandate for the counties, but we're not really a hard mandate.
Yes.
But there's a lot of I think there's a lot of opportunities with the kind of services and things, your presence in the community that align with that initiative. So it'd be good to see you guys get involved in that where you can.
Yeah, may I
Sure.
May I say something? So I loved my time at Seed Haven. I loved my job there. But I was aware of the kind of things that Extension could do during a short period of time that I worked with Mike about 5 years ago. And I realized that Extension really has the tools to address intergenerational poverty. So a lot of things that I was working with clients who wanted to improve their lives and provide stability for their families, a lot of it was just based on skills. And that's what Extension does. You know, when you hear the old proverb of give a man a fish or teach him to fish, Extension literally teaches people how to fish among so many other skills that could be provided. And so I really saw the opportunity going over to Extension as an opportunity to really provide things for this community that it desperately needs to help improve the individual lives of individuals who want to have more stability, as well as their families, and hopefully address those issues with intergenerational poverty.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I do believe we have a department report. Zachariah Levine.
Okay, so this will be brief. And just a quick note following up on Michael's presentation, our office will start working on sort of a coordinated workforce development program for the community. Right now we're just trying to identify actually who all the players are in terms of workforce development as it exists today, and then identify gaps and opportunities to continue filling out you know, what we're doing as a community to help not just our existing industries, but those that we're trying to attract. I have two department updates for you. The first is that last Friday I received a draft of the Assured Housing Feasibility Study. So I am pouring through that right now, and we'll get back to the consultants with some questions and comments, and then I suspect that we will have a report for you all, hopefully by the next meeting, but if not, you know, shortly thereafter, but I anticipate for the next meeting. Secondly, I was asked to provide periodic updates on what's happening with the Spanish Valley land use plan effort being overseen by San Juan County and in collaboration with SITLA. And you haven't heard from me in a while about it, and that's because there hasn't been much happening in the public realm. The consultant has met with the stakeholder steering committee in San Juan County and is now going to host an open house for their draft land use plan. And that open house is scheduled for next Tuesday, February 13th from 6 to 8 p.m. They will have a presentation at 6:15 p.m. and that is located at Grand Water and Sewer Service Agency's facility at 3025 Spanish Valley or Spanish Trail Drive. So we have a planning commission meeting that night, and so I'll be working with my staff to see what's possible in terms of actually attending that meeting. So I'm going to do the best I can to get there, but I may end up late. So if any of you are so inclined, I would encourage you to go. And then, of course, it's open to the public, so we may have some Grand County residents there. Any questions?
Thank you. Thank you very much. We are now moving to the presentation recognizing paramedics and emergency medical technicians who saved lives during 2017. Oh, excuse me. I apologize. I totally skipped citizens to be heard. Are there any citizens to be heard on an item that is not on the agenda? Yes, Steve? Want to come up and introduce yourself? And thank you,
Shall I stand here, Mayor?
at the mic, they need, you know, so otherwise it doesn't get taped.
Okay, so my name's Steve Rouser, and I know most of you, and I can also say that living in a small town, I don't have to fantasize when I look around and say, I've seen people undressed. So anyway, but why I'm here today? I'm here today on a topic that's been on my mind for about 7 years. So you can't say I'm here as a result of a rush. And what I'm not here for...
could you be a little closer to the mic? I don't think anybody can hear
I'm
you.
not here representing the hospital in a real sense, although of course that would be extremely naive to say that I didn't have an interest in the hospital. I've worked and lived in Moab for essentially 35 years. And the last 15 years have been in the emergency department, of which the majority of that time I was acting medical director of the department. And I'm currently in a different job, sort of a new job, which is called Chief Medical Officer for the hospital. That's an organizational change in structure which selects one doctor, presumably somebody who has experience and wisdom, to provide insight perhaps to administrators with regard to making clinical decisions. But the reason why I'm here this afternoon is the topic of the medical director, specifically Grand County EMS. And first I'd like to make a mention about what a medical director is. Sometimes that may not be immediately obvious. A medical director is, as the first word says, someone with medical training, usually a doctor, a provider. And many agencies have medical directors. For instance, I serve as a medical director to Canyonlands Field Institute. That means that I help formulate emergency plans for them should they encounter some sort of misadventure on one of their trips. The medical director for the Grand County EMS is selected by the department. It is not a function that originates from the hospital or anything else. And traditionally, it has been provided and has been served by a physician who was a member of the Moab Regional Hospital and then previously Allen Memorial Hospital staff. But about 8 years ago, as a result of circumstances and situation, the last Moab physician to occupy the position became medically disabled, and then ultimately she relinquished the job. And at that same time, none of the current Moab physicians stood up and said, I'll take over. And so when you're looking at me, you're looking at one of those scofflaws. I can say that perhaps my rationale was because I was also the medical examiner for the county. I was going to the jails and so on and so forth. Dr. Scheer had a soccer league. He was founding the free clinic. It's not like we were sitting around twiddling our thumbs. The two other of the four members of the emergency department were actually not long-standing Moabites like Dr. Scheer and myself. And so they didn't feel so particularly inclined. So a man was selected to become the medical director, a very creditable, qualified man. Believe it or not, somebody that at one time I trained as a resident. He had come down to Moab and did an externship, actually an internship down here. And he was a board-certified emergency medical physician. He had been a medical director of a county in the northern part of the state. And so when the position became available, he accepted the offer. His name is Murdoch. And he's certainly a credible, qualified, very energetic, and a man who, for the last essentially 10 years, has been traveling down on a monthly basis to meet with EMTs and to serve his function as a medical director. And he's never let anyone down, and I don't want anyone to assume that I'm criticizing him in terms of his dedication. Well, what does a medical director do? A medical director for an EMS group establishes guidelines which are used in the field by individuals, EMTs, paramedics, and they're general guidelines, how you would treat a patient in pain. You could use a dose of morphine from 4 to 6, or you could use something that is a sedational agent, how it could be administered. It could be given as an IM injection, it could be given intranasally, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the medical director plays a role that is not immediately hands-on, but he formulates rules and guidelines which are used in the day-to-day practice of medicine. And so for Grand County EMS then, for essentially the last, well, let's say the last 8 years or so, the rules that govern the behavior and the medical care provided by EMTs originates with him from Salt Lake City. And those of us who work at Moab Regional Hospital and take care of the patients when they arrive don't have a direct say in that decision. Now, having said
Steve,
that,
normally, and I apologize, we
You get
give
just a few
people
minutes.
like a few minutes, and
I see.
you've
Okay,
been
all right.
quite over what we normally
Okay.
give. So if
All
you
right.
could draw it to an end.
Okay. Then I will come to one final topic. Trauma is certainly one of the most important and significant causes of loss of life, disability, etc. Interestingly, of course, right now the opioid epidemic is almost as prevalent a problem as trauma. It's actually considered among the causes of trauma because it's oftentimes treated with emergent therapy, administration of opioid antagonists and things like that. So it is an important responsibility, and the hospital periodically is reviewed by the state. The emergency medical division of the state, they come down and they examine the program, which is called a trauma program. Moab Regional Hospital has been designated now as a trauma level 4 for the last 7 years. And when they have come down, one of the things that they have commented on is that there does seem to be a shortcoming that the existing physicians are not involved in formulating and in direct supervision of the activities of the EMTs as they are bringing patients to the emergency department. So once the patient arrives at us and we see them, stabilize them, and then if they're transferred someplace else, then they're actually under our control. But for however long it may take till they arrive, actually the functioning guidelines originate elsewhere. Now, as I began to say when Mary gave me the nod, is in practical reality, they do communicate with us. And they do say, shall we stop doing CPR on this individual that we've been doing chest compressions for an hour now, and there's no response. And so they're not going to call the doctor in Salt Lake City to ask that. They will call us. So in a sense, our interaction does exist. But when it comes to organizational meetings, discussing things with EMTs, we're not directly involved. There was actually a theoretical plan beginning 3 years ago that there would be a transition from Dr. Murdoch to one of us. It turns out it was the designated individual was Dr. Alexander, who's a very credible, also ER-boarded physician. But that transition never actually took place. And it seems to have sort of been thwarted for, I don't know, inertia, lack of completion. There may also be some issues with regard to who would pay for malpractice insurance for Dr. Alexander, because in that scope of activities, she was not actually operating as a hospital employee. The hospital covers malpractice insurance for us working in the emergency department. But I think that that's a problem that it seems like it's probably close to a solution. And actually, as a result of being designated a trauma delivery site, when we see patients who are categorized as level 1 traumas, and we see approximately 20 a year, we can then upbill for the services that we provide because we meet these generally approved, state certified levels of proficiency of care by approximately $14,000 per patient. So there's a fair amount of money involved in the issue. And so the amount of money that it would take to buy insurance for a physician to become the medical director is estimated to be $10,000.
So what are you moving towards? We need a conclusion.
My point is, I think it's time to bring the medical director back to Grand County. Yeah.
Okay.
I think Dr. Murdoch has done a wonderful job, but I think it's in the interest of the county. It's in the interest of everyone else to have the medical director be one of us.
Okay. Thank you. Did you
Yeah,
have
I was
something
just
to
going
add?
to kind of say what Mary said, but this is more of a continuity of care issue as well,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And I think that's important to understand that, if you're hurt on the field and do you want a Grand County physician being on the phone with EMS, or do you want somebody up in Salt Lake? And I think that's a big issue for me. So.
Yes.
Sorry. So may we assume by your presence and comments here that the ER docs in Moab Regional Hospital are willing to take this on again?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
They've been willing actually to do that for about 3 years, and it seemed like it was about to be achieved, but it never really got finished.
And I understood, if I remember right, is that this comes from the department itself.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
they
that
make
is
the selection.
Okay.
They
so,
make the selection.
I would like to clarify, they make a recommendation and the county council makes the selection.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So it sounds like something we might want to do.
Thank you very
Sooner
much.
than later.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. We are now moving to the presentation and recognition of paramedics and emergency medical technicians who saved lives during 2017. Will Barnhart.
Thank you. All right. So Grand County EMS, while we're out in the field with our EMTs and paramedics, responds to over 1,100 requests for service each year. That's been increasing steadily. These calls are everything from helping elderly folks back into bed to responding to a toddler with CPR in progress. In conjunction with our partners from fire, from law enforcement for search and rescue, and from the aeromedical community, we're often forging those kind of first delicate links in the chain of survival. I can't share all those stories with you. I can't even share all the ones where EMTs save lives. But I would like to take a few minutes of your time and recognize some of our providers from 2 of those calls. If Ashley Kent, Brittany Bastian, and Ashley Hogarth would come up and stand by the screen. You guys stand by the screen for me. Yes. So on April 29th, 2017, Grand County EMS and Classic AeroMed were dispatched to the Potash Road for a 30-year-old male who fell about 40 feet while climbing on Wall Street. Upon the crew's arrival, the patient was struggling to breathe, critically low blood pressure, pulse rate, and oxygen saturations. Despite aggressive advanced life support, this patient continued deteriorating, suffering respiratory arrest, and by the time the aircraft arrived on scene, cardiac arrest. Combined crews continued resuscitative measures and successfully restored the patient's heart. He was flown to Level 1 Trauma Center, Correction Level 2 Trauma Center in Colorado, where he continued to receive excellent care in the ICU, in the step-down unit, and inpatient rehab over the next month. Today, while he's still undergoing rehab, he's walking, he is dancing, and he is neurologically intact. April 29, 2017, when the alert tone sounded, Ashley Kent, Ashley Hogard, and Brittany Bastian responded. Thank you for forging the first links of a long chains problem. There. I'd like to have y'all come up for me to present a plaque on behalf of the department.
And there are businesses, community members who also want to thank you, and so we are giving you some certificates of appreciation. Thank you very much.
Please excuse the notes. I'm much more comfortable in the middle of the field and 2 a.m. than I am standing in front of all you fine members of the community. Would McKay Balls, Robin Rybold, Brittany Bastian, again, and Brett Sherman please come up and stand by the screen. On the evening of September 2nd, 2017, about 8 p.m., Grand County EMS, Grand County Search and Rescue, and Classic Air Med were dispatched to Gemini Bridges area after a base jumping accident. Arriving on scene 11 minutes after the 911 call, the team found a 47-year-old male wrapped in his parachute, 400 vertical feet below his jump site, with critical vital signs, multiple open fractures, and altered mental status. This patient was about 600 feet up a steep, unstable scree field, and with full loads of medical gear and fading light, crew ascended the Taos pile to provide life-saving care. Throughout the night, the crew, joined by the flight team, cared for the patient, including application of tourniquets, vasopressors, fluid resuscitation, thermal and pain management, as search and rescue bolted anchors and set up rope systems for the technical rescue. While the agencies were able to move the patient to a less precarious position on the slope, he was too unstable to be moved further by ground, and evacuation by air was too hazardous to conduct in the dark. They took care of that patient all night. With daylight, a helicopter from the Utah Highway Patrol was able to hoist the patient vertically off the scree slope and transfer him to a third helicopter to be flown again to Colorado to the nearest level 2 trauma center. The elapsed time for the original 911 call was just over 12 hours. While the patient ultimately lost his right leg below the knee, he's actively rehabbing, looking forward to climbing and jumping again. Yep. On September 2nd, 2017, when the alert tone sounded, McKay Bells, Robin Rybold, Brett Sherman, and Brittany Bastian responded. Thank you for forging the first link of a very long chain back to life. We're able to share these cases because the patients have made their details public. This is what our agency does. Thank you for your time.
I would just like to say thank you for your service. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? We will now be moving to general business and action items, discussion and consideration. Approving proposed 2018 standard cooperative agreement for the Utah State University Extension educational work. Michael Johnson.
Chair?
Yes.
May I make a motion?
Yes.
I move to approve the 2018 Standard Cooperative Agreement between Grand County and Utah State University to fund extension educational work in Grand County and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Second. Motion was made by Jalen Hawk, seconded by Evan Clapper. Are there any discussions? Questions? Simple, huh, Mike? I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Curtis Wells has stepped out of the room for a moment.
Thank you very much for your support.
6. That's right. Evan Clapper came back. Because we only had 6 to begin with. Yes, 6-0. Curtis Wells has left the building. Thank you. Okay, we will now move to approving installation of a native fish informational sign near the Moab boat ramp.
Okay, so Fish and Wildlife Service, the Zach Aarons wants to install an endangered fish species sign at the Moab boat ramp, and county council approval is required because the proposed location of the sign is on county property. And so while the department would cover the cost of the installation and maintenance of that sign, county council approval is required. So you should have images in your packet.
Yes?
I'll make a motion. I move to approve the installation of the informational sign detailing the identification of the native fish species and related regulations, and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Do I have a second? Seconded by Evan Clapper. Questions or discussion? Seeing none, I call for a vote. All in favor? Motion passes 6-0. P, adopting proposed resolution pending legal review to maintain local authority over short-term rental use. This is a resolution that concerning maintaining local control over our zoning and overnight rentals. But Ms. Hawks called me this afternoon, and I have to agree with her that we really should put this out for the public to look at for a week and let them see it, since it was we were unable to get it into the packet. Yes.
I will make a motion then to that effect. I move to...
And, okay, yes, do.
So? Okay. I move to postpone agenda item P, adopting proposed resolution pending legal review to maintain local zoning authority over short-term rental use. I move to postpone that until the next meeting so that the public will have a chance to see what it is we're voting on.
Do I have a second? Seconded by Greg Halliday. I would like to make a proposal because Castle Valley is going to approve this tomorrow, because they've already approved one very similar that they've put out, and then Moab City will be looking at it and adopting it, and they all have it right now on next Tuesday. It is somewhat timely because of the legislators being in session. I was wondering if it would be possible if we could have a quorum to have a special meeting on during the day, a week from today, which would be February 13th in the morning or the afternoon, if we could have a quorum to look at it and receive public comment at that point, and then if we want to vote on it. Yes, Curtis.
So I'm a little puzzled because I think it's good to take a stance on this issue, but there's not a bill that's been introduced on this subject during this session. So we're a year behind it. The informal responses we've gotten from the representative that ran the original bill was that he wasn't going to pursue any amendments, or excuse me, wasn't going to run another bill to readdress the issue. So I don't see this as being urgent, because I don't think hasn't come up yet to this point. Not to say the session's not over, but that if the representative's not running a bill, I would say it's unlikely that another representative runs a bill, a redundant bill. So that this law, if you'll remember, we ended up in a strange position where it essentially allows for a homeowner to market their property online as a rental, and irregardless of zoning. So it didn't eliminate our ability to control, our zoning or enforce our zoning. It just basically states that someone in a residentially zoned house can market their property online. And so you would, by that logic, the state's essentially encouraging an illegal rental. That's where the bill stopped, and it's an odd place, but legislative bodies tend to do strange things. So I personally don't see it as an urgent matter, because it's dead. That's where it sits. It's not a great thing, but the bill did move pretty fluidly and easily to the point where it was passed in the way it was. So, the likeliness of a repeal, I don't think is high. We did get some good feedback from, the governor when we had our joint meeting. There's some verbiage in the resolution as proposed that I don't think
That's why we wanted to.
is helpful. But and then also the memo from legal, I happen to agree with. It needs some work, but I don't see it as an urgent matter. So I would be opposed to scheduling a special meeting for this item. We've got some other issues that will affect us. A transient room tax increase bill that passed through committee yesterday that's pretty significant for transportation funding on the Wasatch Front. That's something that is moving. It passed unanimously through committee. If our time is going to be spent meeting in special meetings to oppose or support legislation, we should focus that on legislation that's standing, that will affect us during this year's session.
Thank you. My only concern my thoughts on that are that both Hinkins, Watkin, and Albrecht have asked us to give them a resolution. They asked for it, stating that we want to maintain our local control, that we are not comfortable with having a law that says you can advertise something that's illegal. I mean, that in itself is disturbing. I mean, we don't allow that in other areas, the House Tasking Force has also asked us to consider doing that. Senator Hinkins stated that he finds it very difficult when he goes to championing local control, because he's getting calls asking for just the opposite from other constituents. So he says for him to be effective, he needs to have something that shows that Grand County, Castle Valley, and the city of Moab are all in agreement that we need to keep local control and are concerned about a law or a bill that allows for the advertising of something that's illegal. Yes.
I agree with it. I think it's fine to have a position on it once we've had time to fine tune this, but it's not an urgent matter. There's no bill this year that's going to impact anything in here.
Okay. So you want to, I've stated my idea, but so we'll have time to look at it and fine tune it and relook at it at our next meeting. Is that what the motion was, and who seconded it? Okay, Greg Halliday. So the motion to postpone this until our February 20th meeting, moved by Jaylen Hawk, seconded by Councilman Halliday. I will call for any further discussion.
I just want to thank you guys for your work on this. We had some staff contribute to this. I think this is a good exercise for us and a good pattern where we can keep an eye out for issues and get these joint positions cranked out. So thank you.
And Ruth, Mr. Archie and I, when we were working on this yesterday, if you hear of or if there's a workshop or something to help council members write resolutions, that would be very helpful. We felt like we were in rough waters, not knowing always what to do, so we would really appreciate some training if we could find some.
Okay, I'll see if I can.
Thank you. Okay, any further discussion? I'll call for a vote. All in favor of postponing this till February 20th? Passes 7-0. Thank you. And that will give us plenty of time to get it out to the public too, so that it's better this way. Okay, we are now on approving a 4-year lease with options to purchase of a digital voice recorder replacement for the Grand County Sheriff's Office. Rick Bailey is not here. Is there someone in his place?
Oh, that's all.
Says by phone.
By phone?
Says in the agenda.
Okay, it says it on the agenda. Thank you. Sometimes don't far enough. And thank you very much.
Madam Chair, just a
Yes.
quick correction. So item Q is actually a four-year lease, the one we're about to speak on.
Oh, did I say two?
No, I'm sorry, it's actually a 5-year lease. It says 4, but it's actually 5.
So this is a 5-year lease.
And item R is supposed to be a 4.
Okay. Hello, Rick. We are now on the agenda item approving a 5-year lease for option to purchase a digital voice recorder in the amount of $56,629.41. Okay. So.
Do we need one?
Yes.
Yes. The ones we have are basically don't work, can't be fixed.
Well, that's not good.
How old are they?
Oh, it was asked how old are they? The ones we have now?
The current one was installed in 2012.
Oh, Matt's here, so he can help us to the. Go ahead, Matt.
It was purchased in 2012.
Do you want to come up, Matt? Do you think?
Not really, but I will.
Thank you. Our recording and YouTube appreciates it too. What's that noise?
I think we lost him.
I think you could fill us in.
There is.
Sounds like there is.
Careful who you're calling.
Rick?
Rick, are you there? Oh,
So Matt, do you know if it's within budget?
thank you, Matt. Do you know, Matt, is it within budget?
That's a really good question. That's part of I'm not sure I can totally answer that one with a lot of faith. That's why I give it to Rick so he can pay for it. I just design it.
But that's why we're doing the lease with it, I believe, so that we're able to defer that cost over a longer time frame. And at the end of it, it's a purchase to own. So instead of dropping, what is it,
$56,629, we'd be doing $1,066.82 monthly. Is that correct?
Monthly, yes.
And it's under whose budget? Sheriff's Office 3911, and we don't know if it's in budget at this point? It is in budget. That's good to know. Okay.
And it does say 911 fund.
And it says 911 fund. Any further questions?
So what is it, I'm sorry, is it in budget to lease it or is it in budget to purchase it?
These are all great questions.
Do you want to come up? Thank you.
I apologize.
And state your name.
Veronica Bullock.
Yes.
Grant County
Veronica.
Sheriff's Office Dispatch.
Thank you.
So with it, that's a good question. So with our 911 funds, we're trying to replace our 911 system. So the recorder is in budget, but if we have to replace our whole system, we're going to be out of budget. So we going with the lease plan will allow us to restore our 911 system, if that makes sense. Because of the UCA funding, we don't have our grant coming in, but our equipment needs replaced. So we got to stretch our money until we can get it paid back. So does that answer your question?
It does. My concern is you pay a premium to lease rather than just to purchase outright.
The interest rate on this is less than 0.5%, I think. It's
less than half?
And it's
a very, very low number.
Is it?
And state contracts.
And it is state contract.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, Mr. Halliday?
So your current system now is what, 6 years old? And
Yes. 6 or 7, actually. I think it's
6 or 7. Okay, the current system, is it still going to be good in 6 or 7?
Or the one
The
you're
system
purchasing?
we have right now?
No, the new one.
The new one, you should really, I mean, it's a server, it's a computer server, it's got computer parts in it.
So the life's going to be about the same?
The lifespan is probably going to be right about the same. And where we're at now, I really much would have rather seen this replaced at 5 years instead of now. If you're not clear what this device does, is it records in real time all of the 911 calls as well as all of our radio traffic, inbound phone calls coming to the sheriff's office as well. So this is something that the dispatchers rely on very heavily, 24 hours a day. We've had a few different occurrences where it's crashed unexpectedly. Luckily, we've been able to get it back up and running, but there's not a quick replacement for it if it crashes. It has its own internal redundant pieces to it, but it's at the end of its lifespan.
And federally and state mandated, so.
It's something that we have to have.
Matt, is this something you can add storage to later on?
We could if we need to. The size and scope of what we've designed and looked at based on our channel count and anticipating future, this should cover all of it.
Okay.
Very well.
Yes, Mr. Halliday?
So from what I'm hearing you say is that every 6-7 years we're going to be doing this all over again.
Probably. And 6-7 years from now, we'll probably be looking at forklifting out our 911 system over again too.
Okay.
Technology is advancing so fast, and we're now moving on to Text 911, so.
Yeah. And every purchase that we do, as well as everybody else that looks at it, we do our best to be able to try to future-proof it, try to anticipate needs and things that are coming up, make sure that we're getting the most up-to-date system so that we can get, the best value out of it for the longest return that we possibly can.
So the state and the feds that mandate that we do this, are they providing any grants for this? Nothing. Okay.
Not for that equipment.
All right.
Any further questions, comments?
I have a comment that I've texted Rick Bailey, just so he's kind of somewhat in on the conversation. He says Matt knows more about this than he does. So I think we're in good hands here between these guys.
Except for
Okay,
how to
thank
pay for it.
Yeah. I don't think we're doubting the efficiency of the equipment. It's the.
Yep.
Just the price.
Yeah. I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, Evan Clapper?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the lease to purchase of a new replacement fluid order from Gaserco Incorporated and leasing for 5 years with Lease Defiance Funding LLC to be paid from the 911 fund and authorize the chair to sign all applicable documents.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Greg Halliday seconds. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I have one more comment. Does this have to be bid according to the purchasing policy or no?
It's under a cooperative state purchasing contract. Within our purchasing policy, it allows us to be able to take advantage of that pricing. But this particular brand too, it's channelized partners, so we only can buy it through a couple of different vendors. This vendor is the largest vendor here in the state, which also helps us out with support in the future in case something does happen with this. But we did also look at a couple of different brands too. We did get a couple other different options there. This is a system that we're using already, but the new model of it. So the learning curve is pretty flat with our dispatchers. Gives us a lot more features than what we've had in the past. We certainly could have forklifted and gone with a different vendor or a different brand. All reality, this actually came out less. Yeah, cheaper.
Is there any recording or data migration that you have to do with this?
No, because it's recording real time as it goes.
Okay.
So it's not like I'm having to migrate.
It's nothing you have to keep.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to have, some stand-up time as far as programming, making sure that all that's in place, and then we'll stand them up next to each other and fail over to the new one and then take the old one out of service so that there's not a lapse in recording.
Any further questions, discussions? Okay, I will call for a vote. All in favor of the 5-year lease with the option to purchase? Passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Veronica, and thank you, Matt.
Do we need to stay? What's the next one?
Yes, it looks like,
4-year lease for the AEDs.
now this is the 4-year, right? Correct? Okay. We are now moving to item R, approving a 4-year lease with the option to purchase in the amount of $12,241.26 per year for 4 years, totaling $48,965.04 to acquire a 15 automated external defibrillator AE monitors for the Grand County Sheriff's Office with Cardiac Science Capital. Can you cover this as well?
Yes.
Yes. You're okay.
Get a motion on the table.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the 4-year lease to purchase 15 automated external defibrillators, AEDS, for the Grand County Sheriff's Office from Cardiac Science and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Second. Okay, motion by Jalen Hawk, seconded by Rory Paxman. Discussion.
Question.
Yes.
This contract we're doing, it goes for 4 years. What's the life expectancy of these units, AEDs?
They're on the 5 to 8 year,
Okay.
but going with this contract, they keep them updated, so they'll maintain them.
Okay. So they provide service and warranties and all that?
Service, warranty, pads,
Okay.
so they babysit every moving part of it
Is that?
and keep it up to date.
Is that an extra cost or is that included?
That's included in the complete.
Okay, good.
Yes, Pat?
So I know there's a lot of AEDs out in the market. Have you compared them? Is this the best deal?
It's state contract financially. plus it is the best one out there right now.
Okay. Who's the
For the people that are using it, I guess I should say.
Is training included in this as well?
Yes.
Okay.
How many do we have now?
Well, that's just it. They've expired. We have broken ones. So they're going to take and refurbish the 3 that are actually still under warranty that we have.
Is that from the same manufacturer?
Yes.
Any further questions? Or yes, Ms. Hawks?
I'm assuming there are interest rates attached to both of these. I think I did see one in the last string of, for the last item, all of those papers. It would be helpful to me if that interest rate were listed up front on the agenda summary, because I'm not finding one in this set of papers, and it's just something that when we go into long-term agreements, I would like that made apparent up front.
Okay.
Do you know what the interest rate is?
I do not. I apologize for that, but I do not.
Okay, maybe you could just get that to us for some interest. We'd appreciate that.
Sure can.
Okay, any further questions or discussions? Okay, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Okay, approving updated capital improvement projects list for government entities within Grand County as a prerequisite to applying for funding by the Utah Permanent Community Impact Fund Board, CIB, and prioritizing 2018 and 19 projects. Ruth.
Well, I have an idea. This one could take a little while. We do have one more meeting before this is due to the ALG, the Southeastern Utah Association of Local Governments. But this would be the time when you would approve the updated list as well as make the priorities, if that's what you all want to do in the priorities.
I would motion we postpone this item for the next scheduled county council meeting.
And let's hope we don't have a whole bunch of agenda items. Okay, motion to postpone by Curtis Wells, seconded by Patrick Trim. Discussion.
Just one comment. I hate to even mention it, but if it's going to be that lengthy, do we want to consider a workshop?
Or even meetings, say,
An hour and a half maybe before?
or an
Like a
hour?
3, 2 o'clock maybe? I don't know.
At least an hour
An hour?
prior to that, I'd be fine. 3.
It's available.
3 o'clock, and then we can have that like, can we have it as a action item while we discuss it, or do, in
Yeah.
that meeting?
You could. It just depends on how you set the agenda.
Okay. That makes sense, because we don't want to. So 3 o'clock on the 20th, we will go over the CIB priority list. Question? Okay, there's been a motion on the floor to postpone by, didn't you, Curtis Wells, seconded by, was it Evan? Patrick. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 6-0. Rory Paxman is presently out of the room. T.
We set this out on the 20th at 3?
Yes.
3 p.m. workshop.
Okay. Approving memo, proposed memo to staff regarding restructuring a budget process and timeline of the compensation and performance analysis and corresponding request for proposal with Moab City. Curtis?
So you've got in the packet, you had, this is the latest edition of the draft as noted and understood by Councilwoman McGann. And then in your red folder, you have my latest edition of the memorandum that included some edits from closed session, but also you'll notice a little bit of difference. Councilperson Hawks sent an email expressing her thoughts, concerns that weren't, I don't think, adequately taken into account during our previous deliberation on this. And so we need to decide which draft we're going to approve and send out and move on with business. Maybe give everybody a couple minutes to review.
Yes, let's take a minute or 2 minutes. What do you think, to review the agenda item T that was on the diocese?
In the red folder.
In the red folder.
Compared to what was in the packet.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
I'm sorry, I'm just finishing. Has everyone had ample time to read the letter in the red folder? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the draft memo that was provided in the red folder and authorize the chair to sign.
Any further discussion?
I'd like to make a substitute motion. I'd like to move to approve the memo as presented in the packet.
Do I have a second? Chair can't second? Okay. Okay, it looks like the substitute motion died for lack of a second. So we will entertain the first motion to approve the memo that was in the red folder. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 5-2.
Madam Chair, I was notified that it's on that last agenda item, it was 1.8% interest.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, yes, that's a very good rate. So, thank you. Okay, we are now moving to adopting proposed ordinance to create the Grand County Budget Advisory Board. Council Member Wells.
Okay, we held our public hearing at the last scheduled council meeting. You've got an updated draft that was in the packet that went out. Also in the red folder, you've got some legal review that was provided prior to the edits being made. Most of them were implemented from the previous draft. Those that weren't were just kind of clarification, nothing, substantial. But I feel good about the current copy edition, and that it is an accurate reflection of the legal concerns. I forwarded my draft after I implemented recommendations from legal to our council administrator, Ruth Dillon, so that her eyes could glance at it. She didn't see any further revisions. So I'm happy with where it's at.
Do I have a motion?
I'll motion. I motion to approve adopting the proposed ordinance to create Grand County Budget Advisory Board and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Second.
Motion by Jaylen Hawk, seconded by Patrick Trim. Do we have any further discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
If I may. A question on the first paragraph. Just the language. Grand County Council was established as a citizen body whose members are increased and compensation is reduced. I don't really understand that verbiage. What does that mean?
So that's actually taken word for word from the Grand County plan that we adopted per our
Okay.
government change. And
So we have more people on the council and get paid less.
yes, I think the context behind that is you'll notice in the third paragraph, it kind of tees up the third whereas, where because we're legislators and not executives, and we're meant to be part-time citizen legislators, it's encouraged in our county plan that we lean on and take into consideration the counsel and advice of our advisory boards. It's part of our design. We've got, I've gotten some feedback, well, another board, you're adding another layer, but it's the way this form of government was established for those advisory boards to exist in different areas, and so that's the context behind that.
And then I have just some verbiage, hopefully improvement, a thought that might work in the very last paragraph of that page.
Okay.
Page 1?
Yes, the first page, bottom paragraph. I'm trying to decide where to start so that it will make sense. The words I want to change are will enhance and vastly improve the financial decision-making process. I would suggest we change those words to will enhance, comma, vastly improve, comma, and increase transparency in the financial decision-making process. Because I think transparency is a big part of this committee as well. But it can stand as is, or we can implement that small change, and I'm happy either way.
I think there's mention of transparency in the duties and functions, but I don't have an issue with your amendment.
Okay.
So, we've had a motion, correct?
Yeah, so I would be fine if that motion incorporated the recommended amendment.
Thank you. Will you still second that?
I will still second.
Is there any further discussion or questions? All in favor of adopting proposed ordinance to create a Grand County Budget Advisory Board? All in favor? Passes 7-0. Item V, approving volunteer appointments to districts and county boards and commissions. Council liaison to the board, Ruth.
Well, actually,
Madam Chair,
Councilmember Holloway, Holiday.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes.
I move to approve the appointment of James Keough to serve on the Transportation Special Service District with the term expiring 12/31/2021, and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Second.
Discussion. Seeing none, we will call for a vote. All in favor of James Keough? Passes 7-0. We have consent agenda and ratifying chair's signatures on an agreement for independent contractors with State Fire DC Specialist of Salt Lake City for inspection services in the county-owned buildings for fire extinguishers, fire sprinklers, and fire alarms for calendar year 2018 in the estimated amount of $4,255. X, ratifying the chair's signature on interlocal agreement with Grand County Cemetery Maintenance Districts for the provision of certain administrative services through the county clerk auditor's office in the amount of $1,200 a year. Approving chair's signature on independent contractors agreement with Shumway Drilling and Construction in the amount of $4,500 for improvements to the Hell's Revenge 4x4 trailhead at the Sand Flats Recreation Area to improve safety for two-way traffic. Z, approving master lease agreement with Horsepower Fleet Leasing, LLC, and certificate of authority for sheriff's vehicle lease. AA, approving change orders totaling $6,554.49 for the Grand Center Pavilion to include taxes that were mistakenly excluded from the bid and for the installation of lights on the north side of the pavilion. BB, approving proposed grant agreement with the United States Department of Agriculture in the amount of $4,220 to treat spotted knapweed and Canadian thistle. And CC, approving retail beer license for Spitfire Smokehouse, an event located at Old Spanish Trail Arena, scheduled for March 17th and 18th, 2018. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Curtis Wells. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Patrick Trim. Is there any discussion? Yes, Jaylyn or Mr. Clapper.
I was curious if this horsepower leasing, is that separate than patrol cars? Is this for something else, or is this for the...
Would someone from the Sheriff's Department like to answer that? I wasn't sure of the answer.
Well, it's for vehicles for the Sheriff's Department. That's what it is. There are some other entities in the county that have vehicles through horsepower also.
Okay.
So it's a county.
But is it the patrol cars, or is it something else?
No, it's patrol vehicles.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that good? Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, Jaylyn.
Let me preface this by saying that in going over this agenda, it was a little frustrating for me because there were no agenda summary sheets, you know, the white sheets that tell us what we're going to be discussing, for 11 of the items, and it became particularly frustrating in this consent agenda section because I found myself reading through one agenda item of all the documentation for that, and then, you know, as I move the pages through, suddenly I'm reading something that, hey, wait, this isn't the old agenda item, this is a new one. So
the lack of
yeah, my request would be, I know that the people who prepare the agenda summary, the agenda packet, I know they ask for agenda summaries, and if they don't get an agenda summary from the person who is responsible for it, I would just hope that at the very least we could have a summary sheet that at least has the title to separate it from the next item. And that would, I think that would help things vastly.
I think I found that very confusing myself.
A page break.
A page
Right.
break, yeah, a bookmark. Yes, I agree with you.
So having said that, on this DC Fire Specialties of Salt Lake for inspection, it looked to me like we have two companies. One was State Fire DC Specialties, and the other was, where's the next one? Interstate Fire Sales and Services, LLC. And so I'm just wondering what the difference there is, how the two fit into this picture of the price we're paying.
Do we have, yes.
I do not know the answer to that. I apologize. I was definitely involved in processing this paperwork through our maintenance department to our chair. I can find out.
Okay. I mean, I know it's a service we have to have.
Yes,
but it's
whoa,
very-
I'm really glad you're in the audience. Veronica?
You know,
Oh.
one is for service and one is for maintaining.
Oh,
So they come check it and then the ones that maintain it. So there's two different companies.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
That
you.
helps a lot.
So I have a question.
You're a hero tonight.
Can one company do it all?
I don't think you can put it under the inspector can't be the one that fills it.
Okay, all right.
There's a local guy that does it, all. He does ours.
It's true. He did see Cavens. He was kind of hard for us to get a hold of, though. Did you find that? Okay, good.
Yes, Veronica?
State Fire is on state contract also.
Oh, it's on state contract.
Then item X, is that something that we always do? We're just renewing a new contract for $1,200 for the cemetery maintenance district, or is this
Yeah, we
new?
do it. We
Oh,
do it
okay.
every year. It's just to, yeah.
Okay. And I think those were all of the questions I have. Yes.
Any further questions? Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, I will call for a vote on accepting the consent agenda items. All in favor? Passes 7-0. Discussion items. Bryony.
Well, she's coming up. I just want to be sure you all know we will be advertising for board vacancies for the Budget Advisory Board. We're shooting to get it in both papers this week.
Okay, for your February calendars. February 8th, County Officials Day at the Legislature, and that's at the Utah State Capitol. February 13th, Zachariah already mentioned it, but it's at 6 p.m., the Spanish Valley Area Plan, and that's at Grand Water. February 19th, President's Day, offices will be closed. Any updates for February?
Yeah, we got that on the 20th at 1500, special meeting, look at the CIP list.
Oh, I got it.
I'm not seeing the cemetery board meeting on the 13th. There's so many on the 13th.
What time is it at?
It's usually at 6. It will be at 5:30 because we're having a public hearing.
So chances are it's on there, it just, there's so many.
Didn't fit? Okay.
Yeah. But I'll double check to make sure that it is on there.
Also, one more, there's a BLM coordinating meeting on the 15th at 13:30.
What day is that?
15th at 13:30. 1:30.
Sounds late.
1:30 for civilians.
Anything further on February? Okay, March.
All right, for March, March 3rd, National Association of County Legislative Conference, and that's in DC, and that goes through the 7th. March 15th, Canyon Country Partnership, and that's at 9 a.m. That's at Arches National Park. March 22nd is the ALG meeting, and that will be here in the council chambers at 11. And any updates for March? Also attached to your calendars is there's the flyer for Spanish Valley Area Plan, the open house on February 13th. Employment opportunities, EMT Basic closes February 28th. Grand County Sheriff's Office Corrections Officer closes February 28th. patrol deputy closes February 28th. Communications dispatch closes April 30th. And Sam Platts apprentice closes February 12th.
Can I go back to the calendars for a second? Libby, are we meeting the first Monday of March?
What's that?
On the 5th? Sorry, I was talking to Libby behind you. On the 5th, there's the mosquito abatement. Is that 5:30? 5:30. I know. I was testing you.
Did I pass? Special events for February 17th, the Moab Red Hot 55K, 33K. And in March, the 10th through the 13th is the Skinny Tire Festival. And March 17th is Canyonlands Half Marathon and 5 Mile Run. And then in regards to what Jalen said for the consent agenda, how they're the separations. So there are bookmarks.
Right.
Is that not good enough, or do you want like a distinct page separation?
Well, when I'm reading through it, I don't go through, I don't press the button and say agenda item, whatever. I'm just.
You just keep going down.
Scanning through. So, I mean, I don't want to cause more work because I know it's somebody else's responsibility to prepare that. But I'm hoping it won't be too much work to just, if you don't get that, just stick a white sheet in with the title.
Okay.
It'd be really helpful.
I'll do that.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Do we have like a policy or something on the agenda summaries we can review? Or is this just kind of like an informal arrangement that's evolved?
It's definitely an arrangement that's evolved. I can't remember if it's formally a policy or anything. I kind of don't think it is written. We've been a little more lax on the consent agenda, usually, or if it's a letter and it doesn't need a additional language, you know, but we can certainly have a sheet for every single item.
Okay, item EE, discussion on status and process of all constructions at Canyonlands Field Airport and expected needs for completion. Judd Hill.
There we go.
Picture's worth 1,000 words. In your packet, there's an outline. We'll basically follow along of all of the different work happening out there, with the exception of I'll discuss the terminal stuff at the end versus the second one in line in your packet. Overall, we have a lot going on out at the airport right now. With our runway project, this is a $13 million